Order. Questions for oral answer. Mr. Chong Ki-Hiong.
Sir, with your permission, may I take questions 1 and 2 together?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Smoking has been a significant and long-standing public health issue in Singapore. Over the last decade, the prevalence of smoking has hovered around 12 to 14%, and an average of 6 Singaporeans die prematurely from smoking-related diseases each day. The government has taken a multi-pronged approach to tackle tobacco addiction, such as by curtailing access to cigarettes, sustaining public education, and imposing taxes on tobacco products. Nonetheless, we recognize that smoking will continue in Singapore and throughout the world, and smokers need time to wean themselves off their habit. We must therefore continue to remind those who smoke of the health effects and also to be considerate in their actions. Smokers have generally observed the smoking prohibition in public places, such as hospitals, clinics, sports complexes, office buildings, and shopping malls. With smoking already disallowed in most buildings with public access, the government has no plans to mandate the provision of smoking rooms in such premises. Notwithstanding this, the Smoking Prohibition in Certain Places Act allows for the provision of indoor smoking rooms in certain types of publicly accessible premises, such as in entertainment outlets, provided that the smoking room is independently ventilated and not required to be used by any person in the course of his work. The need for smoking rooms should be determined by the managers of these premises, as they have a legal duty to uphold the smoking prohibition rule within their premises. Premises managers may also set up designated smoking areas, or DSAs, in the outdoor areas of their premises, provided these are not places where smoking is prohibited. To the member's question on imposing restrictions on those who smoke on the move, the government has already taken steps in that direction. Since 2013, smoking on pedestrian overhead bridges and under covered walkways has been prohibited. In the latter part of this year, the Orchard Road precinct will be gazetted as a smoke-free zone where smoking will no longer be allowed at all public areas except at a number of DSAs. This means that smokers will not be able to light up while walking within that zone. The issue of smoking is one that requires all sectors of society to play their part. Families and communities must come together to encourage smokers to quit and keep them on the smoke-free path. Premises managers must observe their legal obligation to help enforce the smoking prohibition within their premises in consideration of their non-smoking clients and staff. Smokers should also be considerate when smoking in public places and smoke only in permitted areas, so as not to adversely affect the health of others.
John Pereira.
SMS, thank you for your reply. I have one SQ. On the ground, many people are still walking or cycling and smoking, affecting those behind them. Will the ministry consider holding a campaign to educate our smokers to be more gracious in public by exercising care to keep secondhand smoke from blowing towards others? Thank you.
I want to thank the member for her suggestion. We will look into this. But let me say that in a way, we have already started this when we actually set up DSAs in Orchard Road last year to study the effectiveness of reducing smoking in publicly accessible areas and to encourage the smokers to be considerate and smoke only in the designated smoking areas. In fact, we are actually evaluating the results of this study, and this will also help us the results of the studies will be taken into consideration when we decide on the future plans for designated smoking areas. But I think more importantly, beyond campaigns and to encourage smokers to be considerate, we hope that we can also help smokers to completely quit smoking. And I think in this regard, HPB actually has educational campaigns to raise awareness about the harmful effects of smoking, and it also has an I Quit campaign that it administers to help smokers to quit, in more easily adaptable steps by breaking them down to help them in their quit journey.
Mr. Chong Ki-hyung.
Passerbys and pedestrians who currently walk past outdoor designated smoking areas will also breathe in secondhand smoke. So if we could have some designated smoking area within the building, it could reduce the harmful effects of secondhand smoke. At the same time, it also protect the smokers from the elements, because while we are trying to do our best to reduce smoking, but it takes time, and I think in the meantime, we should provide an avenue where both parties could coexist, but without affecting each other negatively.
As I've said, most of the buildings with public access are already smoke-free areas. So we have no intention to mandate smoking rooms in these places. But notwithstanding this, actually the premise owner can designate smoking areas as long as these are not areas that are where smoking is prohibited. So beyond 5 meters from entrance or exit of a building which is a smoking prohibited area, they could actually designate designated smoking areas, which actually is being done, say, for instance, in Orchard Road, where we have actually implemented DSAs. With regards to having a smoking area within a building, the issue is that if you have a smoking room in a building, it will reduce the level of exposure of environmental tobacco smoke, but not completely, because this ETS, environmental tobacco smoke, could seep into other parts of the building, and it could pose as a health hazard, health risk to persons in the enclosed space. That is the reason why under the Smoking Prohibition in Certain Places Act, we do allow smoking rooms in certain publicly accessed areas or premises, such as the Changi Airport Terminal, in the transit area, as well as in pubs, discotheques, and so on, and also in office premises, but subject to very strict requirements that these premises must have separate ventilation system where the smoking room is, and it must not be an area where the staff is required to be in the course of work, etc. And if this can be complied with, then actually the premise owner can designate a smoking room.
Ms. Sun Xueling.
Question. A common complaint from residents is of neighbors smoking in their balconies or out of the windows of their flats, leading to smoke wafting into the flats of residents. What would the ministry recommend to residents who suffer from such secondhand smoke? Thank you.
Well, smoking within a residential premise in homes, that's a private space, so it is beyond the jurisdiction of the government. We don't have smoking prohibition within the homes itself. So our advice will be for the affected resident to have a discussion with the neighbor, try and resolve this amicably, if not to get assistance from a community mediation center. And let me also say that, enforcement alone really is not the panacea to curb inconsiderate smoking behavior. At the end of the day, we need to urge and get the smokers to be socially responsible and to be considerate and when smoking, so as not to cause disamenities to others. And family and friends of the smokers, as well as the public in general, could help to reinforce the right social norms and through nudges and reminders in order to be able to try and address such issues.
Ms. Cheryl Chan.
I think I take SMS note that enforcement, it's not the panacea and it probably cannot solve all the problem. But without it, it's also not a proper deterrent for many of the smokers because clearly they are socially not that responsible. And I would like to ask the SMS whether there would be consideration if the public can do more. Take, for example, since there's not enough enforcers on the ground, if they do have evidence of frequent smokers at the same location, can they submit that for NEA to take actions against those offenders?
Indeed. So even as enforcement is really alone is really not the panacea, we will continue with our enforcement actions, and we also work with the town councils as well as grassroots organizations to educate smokers, encourage them to be more considerate. Having said that, if residents actually have information or see acts of smokers, errant smokers smoking in prohibited areas, they could actually provide the information to NEA, and NEA will conduct investigation.
Engineer Libiwa.
Thank you, sir. I would like to ask two supplementary questions. First question is, why is the pilot project of DSA set up in Orchard Road? Are we protecting the tourists or the residents? Second question, I have quite a lot of residents asking whether this DSA will be set up in housing estate or not, because that is where many of our residents have feedback that they are affected by the second-hand smoke. Thank you.
So we piloted DSAs in Orchard Road last year because Orchard Road, I think everybody knows, has a very high footfall pedestrian traffic. And this is an area where many people may be subjected to second-hand smoke. So that is a key reason why we have done it there. We are studying and evaluating the results, as I've said, and we will take this into consideration in deciding on future plans for DSAs. Indeed, we are exploring the feasibility of designating other areas as smoke-free zones in order to achieve the government's long-term goal of prohibiting smoking in all public areas. But we need to study the results of this DSA pilot in Orchard Road to determine, how effective it is in reducing smoking in other public areas, getting smokers to be considerate to smoke only in the DSAs, as well as the location, design of DSAs, and so on. With regards to DSAs in residential area, as I've said, we are looking into the feasibility of expanding non-smoking areas, designated non-smoking areas, but we will look at the study and see how we can scale this up.
Mr. Dennis Tan.
There's still a lot of, thank you, Speaker. There's still a lot of people who are still smoking in our public parks, as in our park connectors. A lot of people walking, when they're walking to work, walking to MRT stations, they're smoking along the way. Just like to ask the SMS whether the Ministry will look into increasing the messaging in this concern. Thank you.
I think it's quite similar to the questions posed from the other members, including Ms. Pereira, about having a campaign to educate smokers. First, we have actually extended smoking prohibition to common corridors, covered linkways, pedestrian overhead bridges. So it is illegal to smoke in these places. And if there are persons that are doing this, as I've said, we do carry out enforcement actions, particularly in hotspot areas. But beyond that, you can provide us with further information on such errant smokers.